That's
She,
why she
in
brought
her
the daisy.
eyes, something's off.
She looked like a soldier.
Something's off with her.
No, it's good.
What about
Joel, I think I found something.
Whoa!
What?
Oh, nothing. It's just your forehead seems bigger than last season.
The Last of Us Season 2 is out. Episode 4 is the latest, and it is bombing.
We made a deal to tell this story, and we're telling this story.
The Last of Us was plagued by complaints of bad casting.
The internet lit up the moment the headline hit. Bella Ramsey reportedly wanted to introduce pronoun-focused dialogue into The Last of Us Season 3. And while the idea may have started as a behind-the-scenes suggestion, it didn't take long for the public reaction to roll in, and it was brutal. But perhaps no one captured the general mood more hilariously or more bluntly than Joe Rogan, who took the opportunity to roast the idea in typical Rogan fashion on his podcast. What followed wasn't just a rant, it was a cultural moment. And for Bella Ramsey, it may have been the final nail in a very public coffin.
For some reason, they made the decision for The Last of Us Season 2 to make Ellie dumb, to the point where she even says that she's stupid. Why?
Had to not like each other for a bit.
You had to not like me, which
True.
came easy.
Show is finally speaking out about its failure. The Last of Us creator Craig Mazin admits Season 2 was a fake finale, drew over 50% less than the finale of Season 1. You lost.
Joe didn't hold back. As soon as the topic came up, he started laughing in disbelief. "Let me get this straight," he said to his guest, barely holding back a grin. "You've got one of the most emotional, dangerous, survival-driven shows out there. And you want to stop everything mid-zombie chase to have a pronoun check?" The entire studio burst out laughing, and from there, the floodgates opened. Fans across social media clipped the moment, turned it into memes, and sent it viral. The clip from the Joe Rogan Experience quickly made the rounds. Within hours, TikTok was flooded with fan edits overlaying Rogan's jokes with scenes from the show. Twitter/X threads lit up with fans saying what many had already been feeling: the show had lost its edge and Bella was leading it in the wrong direction. What started out as a gritty, character-driven adaptation of a beloved game had devolved into what critics were now calling a branding project for Bella's personal image.
I'm sorry. That was acting. That's what that was. I don't really care what happens with this movie. I really hope her career is pretty much over. I'd be thrilled to see that. I can't imagine. I mean, Chris.
Ellie! Oh my goodness, Joel! What do I do? Jesus! Joel, focus! Again, Joel! Okay, I guess just use your telekinesis? I don't have telekinesis, Joel! I don't believe you! Look at the size of that thing! Just try, Ellie, please! Clown cranium! Yeah!
Like most people, I liked the first season. I thought they did a great job. Season 2, I was skeptical on them not recasting Ellie and keeping Bella Ramsey as Ellie because it's supposed to take place 5 years into the future, but obviously Bella Ramsey in real life was not going to age that much in, the 2 years it took between seasons. So in the show, Ellie still looks exactly the same, but is supposed to be 5 years older. Also, Ellie still acts exactly the same.
Rogan wasn't attacking identity. He wasn't even going after the idea of respecting people's choices. His point was simple. Not every story needs to be hijacked by personal statements, especially not a story like The Last of Us, where the stakes are high, survival is brutal, and every second counts. The show had always been praised for its realism, its raw emotion, and its unapologetic intensity. Rogan argued that adding a moment like "what are your pronouns" in the middle of that narrative didn't just feel out of place, it broke the immersion, but Rogan wasn't the only one saying it. The reaction from fans was overwhelming. Message boards and Reddit threads exploded with responses. Even longtime supporters of the show were shaking their heads. "We wanted a survival story," one fan wrote, "not a lecture." Others were more blunt. "Bella is trying to turn this show into a soapbox." That sentiment echoed across platforms as people began to realize that the show's original soul, the gripping tension, the raw humanity, was slowly being replaced by awkward, forced messaging.
up your impression at all, or is it pretty much the same?
Well, the noise is the same. I've not got any more noises in my back. The new infected are pretty terrifying. They're so smart, and they haven't really got a noise. That's the whole point of them. They're silent and terrifying.
Ooh, give us a little silent and terrifying.
Yes, maybe we can prop it open with something and you can slide.
Whoa!
Oh my god, what? Is it getting bigger?
Stop it.
No, seriously, what's with that?
It's fine, Joel.
Does it hurt?
Joel, please. You're making me self-conscious.
I'm sorry, it's just a little bit startling.
It's a normal head, Joel. Can we just get back to the door things?
It's planetary.
Leave it.
It's gonna have its own area code soon.
For Bella Ramsey, this wasn't new. Ever since she was cast as Ellie, there had been tension, not because of who she was personally, but because of how aggressively she tried to reshape the role. Rather than embracing Ellie as fans knew her, sharp, witty, layered with pain and growth, Bella tried to redefine her completely. She insisted Ellie could be reinterpreted, reframed, and reimagined through a modern lens. And while that may sound noble on paper, the results on screen told a different story. Viewership for season 2 had already taken a hit. Critics praised the cinematography and Pascal's performance, but Bella's version of Ellie was called detached, cold, and mechanical by more than one outlet. Now, with reports that she wanted season 3 to pivot even further into messaging, it wasn't hard to see why HBO suddenly decided not to move forward. Fans had already started checking out, and now they were rolling their eyes. Joe Rogan captured that exact frustration. He pointed out how Hollywood seems to be losing the plot, literally. These shows were never about what the actors want, he said. They're about telling the story the fans came for. And when actors start steering the creative direction based on their personal agendas, the entire experience suffers. He compared it to a chef walking into a steakhouse and demanding the restaurant go vegan. That's not your role, Rogan said. That's not why people showed up. And people agreed. The YouTube clip of Rogan's rant hit over 4 million views in 48 hours. It was shared by fan pages, content creators, and even some game developers who had previously worked on the Last of Us universe. One former writer from a spin-off project commented, "This is exactly what we were afraid of." The dominoes were falling, and Bella's influence was at the center of the collapse. Bella Ramsey didn't respond immediately. When she finally did, it was a vague tweet that simply said, "Be kind." But for many fans, the timing felt performative. The damage was done, and they weren't in the mood for a moral lecture. They wanted accountability. They wanted someone to admit that the direction of the show had gone off course. But no such clarity came. Instead, Bella's defenders jumped in, insisting she had the right to advocate for representation. And while no one was disagreeing with that right, the overwhelming response from the fan base was simple. Not every platform is appropriate for every message, especially not when it compromises the tone, the story, or the pacing of something as beloved as The Last of Us. Rogan continued the discussion in the following episode, noting that the backlash wasn't about being against anyone, it was about protecting storytelling. These characters have weight because of how they're written, he said. When you start tweaking that to fit a social media narrative, you lose what made the character special to begin with. He compared Ellie to other iconic characters and said that if every actor injected their personal brand into a role, none of the characters we love would be the same. By this point, HBO had quietly removed all mentions of season 3 from their schedule. Internal sources claimed that production had stalled months earlier. Bella's creative input, as one put it, became a growing concern during early script meetings. Writers were reportedly uncomfortable with how the story was being reshaped. "We were losing Joel and Ellie," one insider said, "and gaining something that didn't resemble the world we were building." Now, with the show officially done, Bella is left holding onto an image that doesn't quite land anymore. She wanted to push boundaries, and instead she pushed the show off a cliff. Even her co-stars have remained quiet. Pedro Pascal has focused on other roles, avoiding mention of The Last of Us altogether. Behind the scenes, publicists are advising their clients not to get caught in the storm Bella left behind. For Joe Rogan, the whole situation is just another example of how disconnected parts of Hollywood have become from the audience. And he's not alone. Fans are craving real stories, honest stories, characters who feel lived in and genuine, not adjusted and reprogrammed to follow trends. Bella Ramsey's ambition may have been bold, but bold doesn't always equal better, and in this case, it may have sunk the entire ship. As the storm continued to build around Bella Ramsey's pronoun plot twist for The Last of Us Season 3, Joe Rogan doubled down in his follow-up episode, and this time, he didn't just mock the idea, he dissected the failure. How do you mess up something that's already one of the greatest stories ever written? He asked, gesturing with disbelief. You get too self-important. You start thinking the show is about you, not the story. That single statement struck a nerve, not just with fans, but with other creators who had followed the show's slow unraveling. Rogan wasn't alone in his assessment. Game writers, reviewers, and even a few former HBO insiders began weighing in on podcasts and YouTube breakdowns, validating what many had feared all along. The show had lost its creative compass the moment it began prioritizing messaging over story. And Bella, she had become the face of that creative derailment. In the days following Rogan's second takedown, more footage surfaced of Bella during Season 2 production. Clips from set interviews, fan events, and cast roundtables. One clip in particular drew renewed criticism. In it, Bella confidently explained how she had pitched multiple ideas to the writer's room, including making the show more reflective of evolving gender narratives. While the studio had kept quiet about how much of that made it into the scripts, fans didn't forget the scene that aired midway through Season 2, a moment that felt shoehorned, tonally off, and unrelated to the plot. That scene became the poster child for where the show had gone wrong. Joe Rogan highlighted that exact moment. Imagine surviving a post-apocalyptic world running from clickers, and in the middle of that someone goes, "Hey, what are your pronouns?" Rogan said, sarcastically mimicking the scene. It's like the writers forgot people are watching for tension and survival, not to be reminded of Twitter discourse. The podcast audience erupted again. The internet followed. Thousands of comments poured in. He said what we've all been thinking. Joe just saved Ellie. Thank you, Joe. Meanwhile, Bella's image was in freefall. Entertainment media, once eager to support her trailblazer branding, now grew quiet. Headlines that used to celebrate her boldness now read like eulogies for a once promising career. One op-ed titled "How Did Bella Ramsey Lose the Fans?" went viral overnight. The article detailed her combative relationship with the audience, her refusal to accept feedback, and her habit of turning interviews into soapboxes. It wasn't just that Bella had changed Ellie, it was that she had refused to even acknowledge the fans who loved the original. At this point, public trust was gone. The fandom wasn't interested in redemption arcs. They were tired of being told they were the problem. They were tired of watching one of the greatest game stories of all time get buried beneath viral quotes and forced symbolism. And with HBO officially shutting the door on Season 3, the consensus became even louder. The show had failed because it stopped honoring the source material, and Bella had led the charge. In his third and final segment on the subject, Rogan reflected on the broader damage. This isn't about pronouns, he clarified. This is about actors forgetting their job. You're not hired to rewrite masterpieces. You're hired to bring them to life. He went on to explain that every time Hollywood lets personal branding override audience expectations, another franchise dies. First, it was the script. Then, it was the pacing. Then, it was the dialogue. And by the end, Ellie wasn't Ellie anymore. She was just Bella talking through a character. It was hard to argue with that. Even longtime Bella defenders began falling silent. Fan pages that once backed her to the end stopped posting. Stan accounts disappeared overnight. Others tried to pivot, pretending they had never supported her interpretation to begin with. The domino effect was in full swing. Worse still, insiders began leaking details about how frustrated the original game developers had become with the adaptation. One former consultant said, "We gave them everything they needed, and they ignored it." Rumors swirled that at least 2 developers had asked to have their names removed from Season 2's credits, not out of malice, but out of disappointment. And all of this fed right back into Rogan's narrative. The show hadn't just missed the mark, it had become a perfect example of what happens when storytelling takes a backseat to self-promotion. As Rogan moved on to other topics in future episodes, the damage to Bella's career lingered. Job offers were slow, brand partnerships quietly ended. She was no longer invited to major panels or spotlight interviews. The energy that once surrounded her name had shifted into awkward silence. And while Bella continued to post the occasional filtered photo or vague caption, the comment sections had changed. Fewer hearts, more question marks, more people asking, what happened? And the answer was simple. Bella stopped listening, and the audience stopped caring.